Alright, welcome back to Star Ocean Anamnesis. So, we got the art contest rerun event from last year today, and that was kind of expected, seeing as how we got Miria and Celine from the art contest last week. So, let's take a look at the update. So, first we have the Maze Week to Earth. Be sure to bring your Bride Eve. No, don't do that. Bride Eve never got a rework, did she? Oh, that sucks, man. The first set of Bride characters got screwed. That's unfortunate. Well, be sure to bring a strong defender, and it shouldn't be a problem. Tensai Bishoujo Dai Senso. Yep. So it's the Welsh event with it's rerunning now. So for the stuff that you can get in the shop, we have a weapon and we have some accessories. So let's take a look at the weapon first. Increases one of Welsh's skills by 20% damage, increases damage by 10%, and reduces the attack damage that you take by 10% while you're attacking. Overall, doesn't seem too great, so be sure to turn it into a gear, or you could transmute it because it's an axe, which is pretty rare, I think. So just get rid of it. And then for the accessories, we have the Sapphire Bracelet, which reduces attack and in damage taken by 10% and increases HP by 5%. Doesn't seem too great, so I would just transmute it, although attack and in damage could work for characters that already have natural damage reduction, so technically you could find a use for this. And then we have the Necklace of Flash, which increases critical hit chance by 15% above 100 hit counts and increases critical damage by 20%. Now this one actually does seem like a pretty good offensive accessory, and it should serve you well when you're trying to fight the higher difficulty bosses, so that's actually one that I personally would hold on to. So it's a dragon boss weak to earth, shouldn't be too difficult as long as you have a Bride Eve with you. So let's go to the next one. So the next revival event is from Opera and Ewing, Crimson Opera I think. So let's take a look at the weapons first. We have a set of dual blades, which increases one of Ewing's skills by 20% damage, gives you a 60-10 guts, and increases HP by 10%. So overall, again, turn that into a gear. In fact, the 60-10 guts isn't terrible, considering that it's an event weapon, because, you know, granted, we do have gacha weapons with 80-10 guts and stuff, so compared to a gacha weapon, it isn't great, but it's an event weapon with a gut, so not terrible. And then the orb, which is for Opera, just increases one of her skills by 20% damage, of course, and then increases damage by 10% and a 5% or a 5-second HP regen for 3% HP. Now that last skill also doesn't seem too terrible. The HP regen, certain characters could definitely make use of that. Of course, again, gacha weapons have better regens, but doesn't seem too terrible. Now, for the accessories, we have the Teardrop Sunglasses first of all, which increases in damage by 10% when you're standing at long range and increases AP recovery speed by 20% when you're also standing at long range. So that one seems pretty good for casters in particular, so I would definitely hold on to that just in case you get a caster that you want to use, because AP recovery speed is always nice to have, although there are a lot of characters that have that already, and same thing for int damage, so it really depends on the party that you get into. But then the next accessory is the Platinum Bracelet, which increases attack damage by 10% when the hit count is above 150 hits or more, and gives you Repel plus 3, which makes, or it gives you Taunt plus 3, which makes enemies more likely to target you. So compared to the Teardrop Glasses, I don't think these are too great, because attack damage plus 10%, again, it's pretty common, and the hit count requirement isn't that steep, so you can easily reach it. But if you're going with physical characters, personally I prefer the critical rate accessories, so wouldn't really go with that. So the boss is a, what is this thing? It's it's a beast type enemy, weak to light and lightning. So there you go, shouldn't be too difficult. Seigi to Kyume no Struggle. If I ever pronounce this stuff wrong, you guys have to tell me, because I'm still trying to learn Japanese here. So this is the Hero Verda and Nurse Fiore event. I know a lot of people were looking forward to Nurse Fiore in Global, so this might be the time to hop into JP and reroll if you want her. So for the shop, of course, we have some stuff, and then there's also a box gacha for this one, so that should be pretty fun for farming. So let's take a look at the weapons. So the first weapon is the Nurse Rifle, which increases one of Fiore's skills by 20% damage, gives you a 5% lifesteal, and increases damage by 10% at max limit break. And then the other thing increases one of Verda's skills by 20% damage, increases critical rate by 10%, and reduces the damage that you take by 10% as well. So again, both of these, turn them into gears. The lifesteal on that rifle might actually be kind of decent, although we do have lifesteal on accessories, so maybe not that useful, but yeah, might as well turn it into gears. So, for the accessories, so we have the booster shoes, first of all, which reduce the AP usage for evasions by 50% and increases the evasion speed by 30%. So that seems like a pretty good accessory for fast characters. I would hang on to this because those types of factors are actually kind of rare. So hang on to this. It seems pretty decent, although I can't really see you getting some actual use out of it. Maybe sometime in the future. And then we have the Nurse Cap as the second accessory, which gives you 5% lifesteal and increases damage by 5%. So here you go. Speaking of accessories with lifesteal, this one has the exact same lifesteal as the weapon. So this seems like a decent accessory if you're running physical characters, so I would hang on to this, although I think there are some better lifesteal accessories. But if you didn't pick any of those up, then here you go, you've got this one. So the boss is a mecha type enemy weak to fire and lightning, and I think that does it for this event. And then we have the current event with a Misery 2 and 3 difficulty, and just like the other event, it's a box gacha, which is very much appreciated because I could desperately use the Platinum Prisms. So for the accessories, we have the Sapphire Necklace. Wait, isn't that? It's the Rabisura Zizri Necklace. Yup, it's that thing. Okay, so I think it's at the bottom here. Let's just keep scrolling. There it is. So we have the new accessory, which gives you attack damage plus 10% against every enemy when your HP is sitting at 100%, or enemies take 10% more attack damage when your HP is sitting at 100%, and gives you a 3% lifesteal. Seems pretty decent. Well, it seems like a very self-contained accessory, so that's pretty good. Gives you the lifesteal so that you can stay at 100%, and then everybody gets extra damage against the enemies. So for the next one, we have damage reduction by 10%, and we have when you're above 50 hit counts, you get AP reduction by 5%. So damage reduction on accessories is it's good, but there are characters that have that as well in much larger percentages, so I wouldn't really go with that on an accessory. AP cost reduction does seem good though, but again, there are accessories that have that without the hit count requirement, although 50% or 50 hits isn't really a requirement at this point because it's very easy to get. But this top accessory right here, that seems like a very decent accessory, so I think I might run that one actually. So aside from that, what do we have? We have the boss is still weak to dark. It's a dragon type enemy, and aside from that, there's not much else. Oh, and the this accessory right here, it's the Lapis Lazuli necklace, by the way, which increases AP recovery on normal attacks by 50% and reduces the AP costs for evasions by 50%. So this seems like a very decent accessory as well, especially considering that most attack buffers nowadays, at least according to my experience, don't have any AP on normal. So this seems pretty good for some very fast offensive attackers, and the AP evasion consumption is also nice to get yourself out of a pinch, I guess. So on to the next thing. And we also have a premium login bonus, which I thought this was a Halloween banner when I first saw it. So it costs 960 yen, or I guess almost 10 bucks, and you get 960 gems, and then all of these bonuses when you log in for the next 2 weeks. Seems like a pretty good deal, especially if you're buying gems. So if you were planning on spending some money, then I guess now would be the time to do it. So for the new weapons, we first have this umbrella, which imbues your attacks with dark, increases dark damage by 40%. When the hit count is above 200 hits or more, it increases critical hit chance by 50%, and when your HP is sitting at 100%, it increases AP recovery from normal attacks by 150%. I think this is the first Dark Greatsword in JP, and it's immediately a good one, so I highly recommend you pick this up if you're running Greatsword users, because that second factor is very good for the more difficult bosses. Of course, extra dark damage against bosses weak to dark is also going to increase your damage. That last factor isn't particularly necessary, considering that we now have the Lapis Lazuli necklace, or yeah, it's a necklace, which also gives you AP recovery on normal, so technically you could run that as kind of a bootleg replacement for this, but that last factor could actually make for a decent gear, I guess. No, well, the entire sword can make for a decent gear, so it's a very good weapon. Make sure you pick this up if you're running Greatsword users. Then we also have the Treasure Daggers, which imbue your attacks with Dark, increase Dark damage by 40%. When you're standing at long range, you get a 90-10 Guts, and the last factor gives you extra critical hit rate of 20% when your HP is sitting at 100% against all enemies. So this is the best set of Dark Daggers that we have in the game right now. We do have the Luminous Laser Blades and the Royal Silverware as other Dark Daggers, of course, but this one is just a bit better. So if you're running dagger users, then you might want to pick this up unless you already have the other ones, in which case I wouldn't really recommend it because it's not worth it, because 20% extra dark damage, it's going to increase your damage output, but that I don't really think that's worth taking the chance of rolling this gacha. And then the 90-10 Guts, that does seem like a really good factor, especially if you turn that into a gear. So again, I wouldn't really recommend pulling for it just because of that, but overall seems like a very nice set of daggers. And then lastly, we have the Treasure Sword, which imbues your attacks with Dark, increases Dark damage by 20%, and at 200 hits, it increases attack damage plus 50%, and lastly, gives you a 10% HP regen every 3 seconds. This sword looks awesome. It looks really good, but it's just like the Great Sword, it's the first one-handed Dark Sword that we have in the game. Unfortunately, this one only has 20% extra Dark damage, which kind of sucks. But nobody knows when or if we're ever getting another dark one-handed sword. So if you're running one-handed sword users, I highly suggest you pick this up. Then again, we do have gear, so you could imbue whatever one-handed sword you want with dark elements. So yeah, that's true, I guess. But one-handed sword, it seems pretty good. Attack damage plus 50% above 200 hits also seems very nice, considering that 200 hits isn't that difficult to achieve. So overall, this seems like a very good weapon gacha, and if you have any of the characters that can run these types of weapons, I highly suggest you throw a pull at this. In fact, I might even do a pull on this, but I more so use dual blades in this game, so I don't really have a use for any of these weapons, but very good gacha. And then lastly, we have Nurse Fiore and Hero Verda, and both of them got some extra buffs to their talents, so they're a bit better now. And that's so weird, man, because they didn't buff Bunny Maria or Bride Maria. They just have a thing against Maria. Like, ever since they buffed Blossom Maria, they just don't like Maria anymore. Alright, well, so her first talent increases the attack and int damage for the entire party by 50%, and increases the int or attack damage the enemies take by 10% or 20% if the hit count is above 100 hits or 200 hits. Her second talent gives everybody in the party an 80-20 Guts. Her third talent recovers the HP of everybody in the party by 4% every 3 seconds. And then her last talent gives her anti-flinch while attacking, reduces the damage that she takes by 30%, and reduces her AP consumption by 50% when she's at skill chain 3 or more. And her rush now has a 4500% multiplier, and it recovers the HP of everybody in the party by 40% and increases their single target damage by 40% as well. And then two other buffs that she got are to her third and fourth skill right there. They now have an 1130 multiplier and a 1090 multiplier. They were already pretty good before, but now they should be even better. So Nurse Fiore combines some passive healing with some self-tanking abilities on her fourth talent. Her first talent also has some good attack and int damage buffing, which rivals current level characters. You can get up to about 70% extra attack or int damage if your hit count is sitting above 200 hits, which is very excellent. And then seeing as how she uses a rifle, she's also a very fast and powerful character. Her multipliers are very high, so overall she should be a very good character to throw in any party. And that Guts, that 80-20 Guts, should also be able to save a lot of people. Unfortunately, her party-wide regen is kind of low. 4% isn't spectacular, but it'll have to do. She does have a 40% heal on her rush though, so overall she is pretty decent now. And then we go on to Verda. Her first talent increases attack and int by 30% or by 50% when the hit count is above 150 hits or more for everybody in the party. And then her second talent is kind of different, I guess. It increases rush damage by 20% when the timer is over 60 seconds, and it increases it by 50% when the timer is over 180 seconds, the battle timer that is. And she also increases movement speed by 50% for all allies. Then her third talent gives her anti-flinch while attacking and gives her air dodging. And then her last talent increases her int by 20% and HP by 10%. And her rush now has a 5000% multiplier, and as a post-rush buff it reduces AP cost of the entire party by 20% and increases their AP recovery speed speed by 50%, and just like Fiore, some of her skills also got some buffs. So Atomic Smash now has a 1230% multiplier, and the Heroic Spark now has an 890% multiplier. So those buffs are kind of a lot bigger than Fiore's buffs. So Hero Verda is kind of like a better Freya. She has that same attack and int buff, although hers is a bit stronger, sitting at 50% now. She also has that very unique second buff, which increases rush damage based on what the timer is sitting at. It's not particularly good, seeing as how it needs to be at 3 minutes before you get the full 50% buff. And if your timer is already at 3 minutes, then you can bet that the boss is almost dead, so it doesn't have that big of an effect. She does increase the entire party's movement speed by 50%, which makes her in particular insanely quick, seeing as how she uses an orb. She's also very mobile, and seeing as how her battle skills now have some very nice multipliers, paired with her 3300 instat, she should be able to do some very good damage as well. She has anti-flinching while attacking and of course air dodging, so she seems like a very mobile physical caster, I guess. So both of these characters are very good. They're, obviously not like SS rank or something, but they do have their own niche, so that does make them a bit more useful. So if you wanted to pull for Fiore or Hero Verda, then don't feel bad about it, because they are very decent. And on top of that, if you pull on this banner and you get 3 of those coins, you get 1 coin per 10 pull. So you pull on this banner 3 times and you get 3 of those coins, and you can exchange them for either a rifle or an orb. They're both elemental, so it's not a bad choice. And that does it for the update, so hopefully that was helpful, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Peace!